This is Xavier. He's gonna let a complete and total random stranger that he just met today drive his car on a racetrack. All I need to do is just not bin it. Don't bin it, don't bin it, don't bin it, don't bin it. Hello everybody, welcome to Xavier's 2000 NB Miata with a Torsen rear end, which I'm really excited about. But the best part of it is supercharged. He has the Jackson Racing 45 supercharger on here, and this is actually the first NB Miata I have really driven, and I'm really excited because it's not just a regular NB Miata, it actually has a good amount of power. So let's see how it does on track. Otherwise it's fairly stock besides that. Nice little Miata lean. Oh man, yeah, it's definitely stock suspension. Oh wow, that just kicks in. Wow. I have to get reacclimated with this. This is it's pretty nuts. There's a lot of lean, which is typical Miata fashion. Nice. Coming into a pretty hairy turn. I'm gonna just keep it in third for now. We gotta get used to this because I'm not used to this car yet. But to talk about it a little bit, it's funny, I'm actually short shifting it and not going full beans. This car is fast. This car is actually pretty fast. Heel towing is always nice in a Miata. It's always one of my best and most favorite things to do in a Miata is to shift and do the heel toe, just because the pedals are so nicely spaced. I have some pretty big feet, size 12, 11, depending on the day. But the shifter on Miatas, I don't have to talk about the shifter. It's one of the best shifters in the world. It truly is. Yeah, this thing goes. You can hear the whine of the supercharger. It's just intoxicating. This is, oh, this is so delightful. It's just so rolly. You can pitch it in the corner. Oh, heel towing, so much fun. It's so direct. Oh, this is a blast, dude. I don't really have much to say about it, just because it's a Miata. They're always good. But what I do have to say about it is, with the supercharger, this is a totally different animal, dude. And then kind of going back, Dr. Xavier, how are we doing?
Having a fun time.
So just to kind of drop a note, he is looking into some knock issues. So Xavier has had this car since May of 2020, and basically it's kind of his first introduction into cars themselves, which is, I think, is pretty fucking badass. Excuse my language, but I think that's fucking cool that you chose one of the coolest, best platforms, and you decided, you know what, I'm gonna learn how to tune my car. So did you tune this car yourself?
Yeah, I sure did.
He tuned this car himself and came into it blind, didn't know anything about cars whatsoever. And here we go. Yeah, this thing's hitting almost 90 right there. I'm not even going full on, which is pretty crazy. I'm short shifting a little bit just because I want to respect this car, and he's kind of doing some, let's call this a test and tune. And it's pretty cool because I get to drive a Miata on track while the mad scientist here does his work. Oh man, now you can just kind of toss it around. I just love that. The suspension is stock, but don't let that fool you. This is still an insanely good handling car, very precise, very direct on it. And it's just so much fun. That half throttle thing throws me off. So to kind of convey something to y'all, there is something this car is doing, and basically with half the throttle in, it's not going full tilt on the supercharger until you go full throttle in. Then we actually are like hitting supercharger, so it kind of reminds me of a turbo. It's super weird. It's like, this is like, the best way to put it is it's kind of like an instant turbo, which is super weird to say. These tires don't like this. These tires do not like this at all. Oh, yeah? They're doing really well though. Yeah, they're kind of getting heated a little bit, but not too much. And 90. Wow. That is impressive. See, you just kind of just chuck it in here, boom, just like that. Light hands, nice and easy. This car just communicates and talks so well. I don't have a whole lot to say about this car because it's just already a good car. Like, I pretty much already knew where I'd put this car at on my tier list before I even drove it. Like, this is just so much damn fun. And the NB chassis is pretty damn good. Compared to an NA, there's not a whole lot difference. They talk about there might be a little bit more chassis rigidity, a little bit more chassis, I guess, just structure to keep it from flexing. And I don't sense a lot of flexing. The one thing that you need to do is you need to go spend $35. Have you looked into Dairyland door bushings?
Oh, the door bushings?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
We got a Porsche coming up on us, and we're gonna let him pass. I kind of want to chase him down. But no, this is a cool off lap. I'm not chasing any Porsches. We're on stock brakes, so it's not bad. Stock brake rotors and an aftermarket pad. And that's pretty much all you need. Like, there is, other than the supercharger, there is pretty minimal modification to this car. And that's all you need. We're on the racetrack, totally comfortable, totally capable, get a few laps in, and it's running like a top, insanely reliable. So I love these little cars because they're extremely reliable.
Cool.
Yeah, dude, appreciate you let me rip on this guy. Let's put it on the tier list, see where it lands.
Howdy, and welcome to the tier list once again. I'm not going to make this very long at all because it's a Miata. If you haven't driven a Miata already, what's wrong with you? Just go drive one. Quit casting judgment and just go drive one of these hairdresser cars. They're incredible. There's a reason why they are the #1 best-selling convertible of all time and one of the best-selling sports cars in my opinion of all time. Alright, let's start with the drivetrain. It is a BP 4W motor that produces around 140 horsepower and about 119 foot-pounds of torque in stock form on the crank. Xavier produces probably around 170-ish real horsepower because of the Jackson M45 Racing Supercharger. Xavier tuned his own car with the supercharger and he had his laptop out the whole time. He let me know that the throttle 50% of the way in actually kicks everything on completely, and that's due to Xavier running 2 throttle bodies. So it was really interesting to feel on the track because all the way through the throttle you kind of have this regular sense of acceleration, and then all of a sudden whenever you go about 50% in the throttle, the car just like kicked on even more. It was like its own instant turbo. It was crazy. Definitely took me a while to get used to as it's not completely ideal coming out of a corner, but it actually wasn't too bad at all. This little guy trucked. It was very reminiscent of my old NA2 Miata with a Flyin Miata turbo kit. Power was plenty sufficient enough to make this car have you pucker just a little bit whenever you were accelerating. Overall, it was a lot of fun. The transmission is a 5-speed transmission, and the clutch, the gearbox, everything with the pedals, perfectly spaced pedals. Clutch is fantastic engagement. The gearbox is notchy as ever. I mean, it is revered as one of the best gearboxes on the planet. Really not much more to say about that. The stock suspension was nice and rolly, and that's one of the awesome charms about the Miata is that you can kind of just roll it into a corner, and you can use that inertia body roll to just kind of get it around a corner. It's a lot of fun. If I recall, I think that he was on some just kind of all-season performance tires. I don't remember what kind they were, but they were actually pretty decent. There was a little bit of push towards the end because they were starting not to like the driving that I was doing. However, I think that if I would have just lowered the PSI before I went out, it would have done a little bit better. The brakes are good. He has some sort of PowerStop pads with the stock rotors, and it was plenty sufficient. Brakes are super cheap for these cars anyway, so I mean, upgrading them is not a big deal. The chassis itself was plenty stiff. It was a little stiffer in my feeling than a regular NA Miata, and that's also probably because it did have a roll bar in there. Supposedly there is some chassis bracing that Mazda did to the NB just to make it a little bit stiffer than the NA, and it was actually pretty apparent to me. It's just a good start to having a really fun car. Everyone has their preference in modifying a car. To me, I like starting off with the tires, the suspension. In my opinion, Xavier went backwards, which is totally fine because the NB chassis can handle the power. The NB chassis is already so good. If you added some power to it before you added any suspension components or any tires or brakes, it actually handled it really well. And for that, in terms of putting on the tier list, I have to do some rearranging again. Boom, Xavier is sitting solidly in first place in B tier. Whenever Xavier starts doing mods such as the suspension and way stickier tires, this thing is going to be an absolute beast and will flourish very nicely in A+. Luckily, he's already got the power thing taken care of because, you know, nobody buys a Miata for the power, so he's already there. Overall, it's just a very quaint experience and just really reminiscent of all the Miatas that I used to drive. Just a very fun car. It's such a good platform. Again, if you haven't driven one, what's wrong with you? Just go drive one. Thanks for watching my video. I don't have any exhaust clips because unfortunately I think they got deleted, and that sucks because I did have Xavier do some exhaust revs. What do you think about the placement of this car in tier list? Do you think that it's warranted? Let me know in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and I'll catch you later. Bye.